In 4.7, Genshin is going to be releasing a new endgame mode, and similar to the Abyss Corridor, you are going to be getting a ton of rewards for the first time clear as well as the subsequent resets. But the strategies for beating this are going to differ from the Spiral Abyss, so I'm here to help you prepare for this mode, so you can clear all of it day 1 and get 1700 Primogems with little difficulty. Hello there, Flip here, and today I'm going to be talking about the best strategies to combat the theater, as this is a lot more telegraphed than the Abyss, so it should be easier to max out the rewards. But before we do that, as always, if at any point during the video you're entertained or informed, make sure to drop a like and even consider subscribing, as I talk on various topics regarding Genshin's meta and I'll try to keep you updated. And with that, let's begin. Okay, so basically the theater will work in seasons which will reset every month. We are given 6 characters that 100% without a doubt have to be used. And if you don't own the characters, then you're given trial versions of them that will be level 80 with their best in slot 4-star weapon, or what Genshin thinks their best in slot 4-star weapon is, with a recommended artifact set. And there's no negotiation, these are your starting characters and by default will be added to your principal cast, which is a pool of characters to choose from before you start a trial. Then you will have to select 4, 8 or 12 of your own characters depending on if you pick easy, normal or hard difficulty, and this is separate from the 6 you are forced to have, and this will be your alternative cast. But not only that, you have restrictions. For whatever reason, needing up to 12 characters wasn't enough. The characters chosen also have to be of a certain element, which for the current season is going to be only Pyro, only Electron, only Anima characters. You can also take one of your friend's characters to add to your alternative cast, which is, sure. Assuming you are on hard mode, after having your 18 characters established, you will go through 8 different trials, 3 of which will be boss fights and the other 5 will either be a defense trial, which is just defending a monolith, like in the Abyss, or an action trial, which is just the Spiral Abyss. So after every trial, you will get a screen which basically asks you what type of defense or attack trial you want, but it will also offer you some buffs which can be purchased for a currency that you'll get after successfully completing a stage. Or with your currency, you can choose to get some characters from your alternative cast to add to your main cast. Speaking of which, I should explain how that works. When starting an attack, defense or boss trial, you get prompted to choose 4 characters, and when you select 4, this will take away a life from them, in which they have 2 by default, and after you use a character twice, you can no longer use them again, unless you get a buff that counteracts this. And after you successfully complete a trial, you'll randomly get a character from your alternative cast added into your main cast. Besides just completing the trial, there will also be a special challenge that will give you additional currency, like getting a certain amount of swirls, or defeating enemies with an elemental burst or skill. There will also be a secondary objective that will give you a star, which is what is used to get your monthly Primogems. So then you do that 8 more times to get all 8 stars and boom, you have completed the theater. Now let's explain how you should approach this mode, starting with character assortment. So the theater differs from the Abyss in the sense that Abyss prefers vertical investment, where you focus all your investment into 2 to 4 teams, and you'll be able to beat the silly out of any cycle, where the theater wants you to horizontally invest and build as many characters as possible to a usable enough level. Assuming you take all the trial characters and the free character you can steal from your friend, you still need to build 11 other characters and they need to be above level 70 in order to be used. And assuming the trial characters are level 80, C0 and have their best 4-star options, there most likely is not a need to push this threshold when clearing this mode. So if you want to best prepare, if you don't have these characters built, for the time being you don't want to build them, as a trial version should be more than enough. And also you want to take your friend's characters, especially if they're a filthy whale. So now that leaves us with 11 characters you should focus on building next. Also, my characters are good, here's my UID. They increase the friend limit, so I'll accept any of you who want to steal my characters. You know what, let me take a break to play one of my favorite games for a second. What am I playing? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm happy to say that this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. As you guys should know, Raid is a free fantasy RPG with over 800 different characters for you to collect, from all your favorite fantasy staples like dwarves, orcs, lizardmen. Okay, maybe that's only one of my favorites, but you can easily explore and find yours by using my link in the description below, or by scanning my QR code to download Raid Shadow Legends on your iOS, Android, or PC, which allows you to experience the amazing events going on that I'll talk about briefly, but I first want to clear up some misconceptions surrounding Raid. A lot of people seem to think that the game has no real strategy or depth, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In terms of depth, Raid has multiple game modes like clan bosses where you can team up with your clan, the Cursed City allowing you to traverse through 100 increasingly difficult stages, matches, and of course you can test your champions against others in the multiple different PvP modes, all of which is held together by the vast ways to build your teams through the sheer amount of characters that shine in certain scenarios, and by using the best artifact sets for your characters in specific content. With that out of the way, Raid has a sweet event currently that you don't want to miss out on. The Spring Hunt event, which ends in about a week, where you can win a gaming console, $10,000 in value through Amazon gift cards, as well as other in-game rewards and multiple different powerful champions. And if all of this somehow isn't enough, when using my link or QR code, you will get the Epic Champion tie roll for free, and when you reach level 25, you will get the Epic Champion Rector Drath and a bunch more rewards. And I know you don't want to miss out on any of these juicy things, so make sure to download Raid Shadow Legends by scanning my QR code or using the link in the description below. Thank you to Raid for sponsoring the video and all of you who clicked the link, as it supports me. Now back to it. As we know, the best way to convey information that won't get taken out of context is through a tier list. So here, as you can see, in my opinion, the two most important characters to build are going to be Bennett and Fischl, as they are by far the most flexible characters here, working in every Pyro, Onoma, or Electro team. Bennett being an attack steroid for all the carries, and Fischl being able to work with any of the characters here as an outfield damage dealer, and a battery for the Electro characters. Next in the high priority tier, we have characters like Kazuha and Venti, as their grouping will actually just violate the attack and defensive trials. Zhangling is here too, but because of how Bennett reliant she is and you only have 2 uses of your Bennett, and Bennett has a ton of teams outside of her, there can be some scenarios where you get Zhangling and no Bennett, in which case you'll feel very bad. Unless you also get like a Chevreuse and Yai pairing going, which is fine. She's still a very good off-field damage dealer though, so high priority nonetheless. Speaking of Yai, actually, she'll be good. Off-field electro damage, you can even just skip her burst if you want, and she should be able to work well in a lot of different teams as a carry or just purely off-field. And I'm going to need you guys to peep, game, and look in with my vision here. Looking at the only other electro mother in the high priority tier, literally just get Lisa to level 70, ER Sands, TTDS or Favonius, and now you have a free 15% defense shred. She'll be able to add value to any of your teams, and she'll need a little amount of investment. There's quite literally no reason not to build Lisa here. If you want to shred resistances instead, Chevreuse is also in the high priority tier, because as long as you don't get unlucky with your teammates, you should be able to pair your Chev alongside any of your Pyro or Electro carries. The defense and attack trials are going to be 50-50 on whether you get heavy or light enemies, but if you get heavier enemies and happen to have her, she'll be great there. Additionally, you can just save her to have a surefire way to take care of bosses, which is where she's going to shine the most. Now, I don't want to be here all day, so to summarize the mid-priority tier, it's for the most flexible on-field carries within the characters allotted, which is why someone like Klee, who's really good in Mono Pyro, is there, and someone like Hu Tao isn't, as she isn't that good without Vape. It's also for sustain units, as you do ideally want around 3 others besides Bennett, so just pick and choose. Then I'm not sure if I mentioned it because I have the brain power of a donut, but you have 4 special characters that you're allowed to use outside of the restrictions, which are Baizu, Alhaitham, Ryosli, and Sijmin, in which the characters in the only good if you have the special characters tier are only good if you have one of the special characters. Pretty much if they have Baizu synergy, as he allows you to run quick in teams. And the low priority tier is just all the Pyro and Electro characters that are cooked without Hydro, or just bad characters. So ideally you pick up Bennett, Fischl, Zhangling, and one or both of the really good groupers, Lisa, 3 other sustain units, preferably Chevreuse, Baizu as he opens up aggravate teams, and Jonin if you have Zhao. Otherwise, I guess any of the sustain should do just as good. And from there, any of the mid-tier carries with some extra supports and you should be good. Now let's discuss more details about the mode itself and how to approach it. Alright, so because the difficulty of this mode is essentially tied to the fact that you need to have multiple characters above level 70, and the fact that they are thrown at you randomly, they balance this mode so that essentially it's not that hard. For attack trials, it's just Spiral Abyss to where you want to kill enemies in a certain amount of time, and most of the time these are going to be trash mobs, at least from the gameplay I've seen of it, or it might be random, but you can still inspect what enemies you're going to fight before you go in, which is why a character like Venti is just going to be able to trivialize these floors. But I would recommend saving Venti for defense trials if you have him, as many teams with good enough DPS and support should be able to just brute force through this. With these floors, you're going to have 3 objectives. The first is to just beat the stage with the amount of enemies it tells you to. The second is a challenge that will give you more currency so you can buy more things, for example killing enemies with an elemental skill or triggering swirls. And the third is going to be what's crucial for getting the rewards, as it awards you a star, which for attack trials is to kill enemies in a certain amount of time, or defeat even more enemies in the time given. Defense trials again aren't anything new, but a cool thing is that the more enemies you defeat, the timer will reduce in according to this, so you can blast through these very quickly. I can't really give a concrete strategy for this other than making sure you save decent groupers, whether it's Venti, Sucrose, or Kazuha. Hell, Farazan also has solid grouping, I guess. I think Hazo has a constellation that do whatever you have to. The ends justify the means. For boss chambers, if you want early access, just go to Spiral Abyss and load up chamber 12 too. This is where if you have her, you would want to bust out your Chevreuse. She has 2 uses at a base, so this ensures that you can use her for bosses twice. To get this star, you have to kill the boss in 75 to 90 seconds, I'm not sure which one. But as long as you do have good DPS, these are going to be the easier stages, as the enemies aren't skilled as high as they are in the Abyss. The bosses from my dreams are going to be Capellius, who with Pyro teammate should just be a joke. The Dendrocook, which is actually just free, and the Twin Bishops, who are very annoying, but as long as you aren't playing a circle impact team, you again should be good. Past the 11 character check, this mode isn't that difficult. Pretty much save your single target oriented teams for the bosses, prioritize your grouper in the defense trials, and make sure you choose the lighter enemies. And for attack trials, AoE characters are going to be very good. You can even orient your 8 teams around the carries given to you, so like this. I guess we should talk about the buffs next. While you are doing all of the trials, you're going to get a currency that you can spend in between stages for certain buffs or events. So let me just go over the best things to spend this on, as there is no real use in holding on to it. Number 1 priority, if there is a companion event, choose it because you want the most characters, as that gives you the most options and limits RNG. Actually, there are some pretty bad ones like these, which you should avoid, like how you've been dodging showers, but the rest are pretty good. For like actual buffs, it depends. A lot of the buffs are suited towards the trial characters you have to use, obviously, making any of the specific buffs good to get if you still have them in your roster. Besides that, the buffs that are going to be universally good regardless of your characters are going to be these, as they are damage bonuses with conditions easily achievable. And this energy buff in particular is fucking broken, especially if you're in situations where characters have to be played solo. Most of the other buffs are good too, don't expect anything simulated universe level, and besides the energy one, none are that impactful to your quality of life. The only ones I'm skeptical of are the ones that do damage, as we don't know how much damage it is yet, and there's a chance it's very negligible or very good, so that will just depend. But yeah, that should be everything you need to know about this game mode to prepare and get ready to claim a fuck ton of primos on day 1. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment what 12 characters you're going to bring, as I'd love to hear it and respond to almost every single comment. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to check out Raid Shadow Legends using my QR code or link in the description below, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.